I've been finding gold all day, like somewhere between 30 and 90 colors to a pan with some coarse. Found a 150 color a pan spot with some fine. And I've just been getting frustrated. I'm like, based on what I dug the last time, this isn't going to add up to that make money gold mining levels of gold. Like, is it really worth setting up here? Maybe I'll move on to the next spot. And I think the fact that I'm out here in perfect weather, I am just so far gone upriver from where I launched. It is beautiful. I've never seen this country before, never seen this river before. I have a boat that works perfectly. I'm comfortable on the river. I know I'm not going to just smash into something and sink. And everything is going so right. And then I'm just feeling down because I'm not finding as much gold as I want. But I'm finding plenty of gold. If I wanted to find a gram in a day, I could set up. And this is kind of like the hobbyist's dream. It's such a perfect time to be out doing this. And yet I'm feeling frustrated and like I'm a failure because, to find that 4 to 5 grams per day, I just can't set up at any of these spots. It's just not good enough. Maybe I keep going to the next spot. I get frustrated with a big gravel bar rather than properly panning the whole thing. It's just not adding up in the pan, and I move on to the next spot. And so I'm going to shift gears now. And I'm going to say, all right, I don't need to make money this trip. Came out. I've got an awesome camping setup. I'm going to camp in the boat. I took some twigs and I sort of built like a bit of a lean-to out of my tarp. So it's going to be an awesome night. I'm going to go for a swim. It's just going to be such a perfect and amazing trip. And I don't want to let the lack of good enough gold get in the way of that. So I am going to keep panning for the rest of the day. I'm going to set up when I'm ready to set up. Still plenty of sunlight here, although it is getting later in the day. It's about time for dinner. And I'm just going to focus on having a great camping trip out here and really enjoying just how beautiful everything is rather than letting myself get frustrated. And then as a bonus, I will set up the high banker. I'll get some good exercise and we'll see how much gold we do wind up with at the end of the trip. And that'll just be a bonus. I just walked out here trying to prospect, just trying all sorts of everything. And there are so many of these flowers. It actually smells like honey. Like, oh my goodness. That smells so nice. And there's so many honeybees just buzzing away, doing their thing, making delicious honey. This is the wilderness in its absolute finest, and I am so blessed to be here right now. That is the shift I'm going to make. The water's the perfect temperature. The air is the perfect temperature. There are mosquitoes, but hardly any. Look at this beautiful little side channel I just parked at. I've done a few pans around here and down around the corner. Nothing worth talking about anyways. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to head back downriver a little ways to a spot where it just looked like a really nice campsite. That pan, we were showing about 50 colors. And then up here, we were only showing about 30 colors. But then up here, so you can start to see where that's going. This is about 85, 90 colors. So it's not big money gold, but just, I might as well show you guys, since I can get this to show up on camera fairly well. This is what we're looking at. And it's a small shovel. So I got to see how deep it goes. Like, is it just the very, very, very surface I need to skim? Or is there something in the gravel a little bit deeper below? But again, compared to sort of, expectations of trying to find some 300 color stuff, we're not doing that well here. But that's going to add up to something I can actually weigh on a scale at the end of this trip. I'm not going on a crazy, multi-river explore this time, so the cost of fuel is going to be a little bit more respectable. So, as far as paying for fuel for the trip, it's possible. It's about 8:30 p.m. and I'm going to, I think, probably do 5 or 6 more pans just to get a general feel for this area. Obviously, I want to keep moving up the bank and see where it tapers off, and then draw a line down and up river from that point, just so that I'm in the best of the ground that is available. Sunset session. There was this awesome guy, the guy who was running the hotel when I was in Nicaragua, and everyone sort of surfs out on the beach there, and so he was all stoked. He's heading out, doing a surf kind of thing, and then I get my surfboard and I head out. He sees me, he's like, "Sunset session." So that's kind of become a little coin phrase, the old sunset session. That's what I'm up to right now. It shouldn't be more than half an hour to sort of clear this area out, and I can sleep sound knowing there's some gold in the box. Well, having this adjustable, so much easier. First shovel of the good stuff. Show you the high banker running here. I've got a level sitting at the back there, so that tells me where I need to be. Left and right's pretty easy with a 12-inch box. Now, the advantage of this setup here is when I'm running 2 levels down below, I need twice as much water. And so this really fires up and super destroys everything that's sitting in here real nice. If I've got organic matter, I just sort of stab at it with the shovel a little bit, and it seems to take care of it really well. The grizzly stays clear for the most part, and unlike a screen that you need to scrub, you can just sort of rub everything off of this pretty well. And my recovery, there are some larger rocks that will make it through a grizzly versus a screen, but the recovery doesn't seem to mind. It seems to be doing really good. We are running roughly 15 to 20 gallons per minute. There it is, the Poppin' Sun setup. You can Google what that is. And about 1.5 inch slope. And it seems to do a pretty good job. So I'm going to basically just take this little area right to around there and up, actually the front of this area, like right there, I have to grab as well. But it's a pretty narrow little diamond there. And right dead center shot, that is where we were getting 90 colors in a pan, or in a little shovel. So I'm not expecting great things, but it should be a very nice sunset session. As you can see, she's sort of self-feeding herself. Now, because there's a bunch of organics and stuff mixed up in here, all these organics, it's a little hard to do with one hand because I'm filming, but you basically just stab the shovel in like this, and you can kind of twist it around a little bit, and then the water gets in and washes everything out. So once you've perforated it with some holes like that, then you go and you take your next scoop, and while you're doing that, we'll head back to the high banker here. Oh yeah. You can see the water's cleaned out. And then we basically stab it over a few times again. Now that cleaning action does work better when I have twice the water flow and double levels. but I'm just running this one level right now because it's kind of slow digging. This sort of like the way it spins and sprays out like that, I should probably do something on the inside of this to kind of make it go more of a straight cannon, and that would do a better job of breaking everything up. But it's as simple as unscrewing this and figuring something out and then trying again. I just went for a dunk in the nice cool river, and so yeah, skin feels good and nice and clean and everything. I've got the thermocell running here, and bug situation seems to be pretty good at the moment. As a precaution, obviously I'm just going to be in my sleeping bag, and I've got one of those sort of mosquito nets that I'm going to put around my head, just keep my face, you know, screened in. I am sleeping under the stars tonight, and my usual precaution there is I've got this little tent fly next to me, and it goes underneath my sleeping pad like a ground sheet, and there's some excess to the side. So if for some reason it decides to start sprinkling overnight, I basically just pull it on top of my sleeping bag, and it works sort of like a bit of a bivy sack to keep me dry. It's incredibly quiet and peaceful out here. I have a feeling I'm going to sleep very well tonight. The fog has lifted. The sun has risen. It's very quiet right now. Usually you get a lot more birds going on. So, must just be the area that I'm in. Or the time of year, perhaps? High banker's already set up, so there's not much motivation between me and digging out the rest of that Paystreak. Beautiful sunrise. Figured this was interesting enough, I'd sort of show you what's going on. If we look up here, the Paystreak has sort of been following this little area right here, and I'm trying to determine how far up to push. So if I come into this little skiff of dust on the surface, there is nothing in it. It's just nothing. However, if I dig down into it a little bit, so right here, it's just that thin skiff, and then there's some gravel down there. Then I get a pen that looks something like this. So it's only about 90 colors, but there's some coarser colors in there. So you can actually, like, you know, it shows up on camera, like there is definitely gold in that pan. And that's just a little partial shovel like that. And then you can see sort of the direction of the water flow, like so the water's flowing in this direction. And there's a mound here, and it's just a mound of that soft sand. And all that sand on the surface, again, not gold. But if you dig down here, so I had to dig down probably about 6 or 7 inches, and then you start finding this little skiff of gravel down there. That's the same gravel that I got out of this hole right here, except that there's a big mound of sand over it. So in my opinion, it's not worth digging through all of this sand in order to get down to that same layer of gravel, because it's really not that good as it is. But what I'm going to do to finish off my streak is right where the mound starts, I'm going to come up to that so that I'm not digging all the extra overburden that I don't need to, but I get into that layer of gravel between here and this edge that contains roughly that 90 colors with some coarse gold. Down here, and right, usually like if you have a good layer here, then right at the top of that layer where it bleeds down, you'll get like a shovel width of okay pay. And that applies here too, but it's just not really that good. No more than a couple hours of digging. But I'm going to, at the high banker, I'm going to completely clean this hopper moss. So the primary purpose of this is it's really not that great for testing purposes because you have to clean it out every time. But essentially there's just a little bolt here I unscrew from underneath. This protects the moss to keep it from getting all shredded up and everything. And you can see in here, oh hey, there's some gold. So it does hold gold, but the goal is that this fills with gold and black sand, and then that black sand getting blasted by the nozzle up top here will just sort of feed everything down, and then the actual box below is what's supposed to do my capturing. But if I come to the very bottom of this box, I do not have the La Trappe today because I just wasn't finding enough in it. That's a piece of gold right at the very end, just about to head over and leave. By my finger here, another little piece of gold. There's not a ton showing, so I mean it is capturing a lot, and you're always gonna have some gold leaving. I was guessing about 95% capture, but like I'm seeing actually pretty decent gold right now. So those bigger flakes, the numbers game, it's less actual gold, but those larger flakes, I mean, a big flake can be 10, 20, 30 little flakes. And it's really hard visually for me to be able to tell the difference between, you know, how much gold is in this pan versus how much gold is in that pan. And so I count, and I'm using the numbers as a rough guide. So within this area, you know, I'm counting how many numbers and they roughly look the same. But just visually, when I look at the pan and it's all in a little line, you can't even count the numbers. The gold at this location actually looks like maybe half decent. So that's why I want to do a complete cleanup of this high banker. It'll be 2.5 hours of digging by the time I'm done that little front section. And then I will know for certain from this location, was it worth digging? So if I see coarser colors like this, but there's only, you know, 50 to 90 per shovel, what's that actually equal per hour of digging? I'm not counting shovels today, but I'm really curious. So this will be, well, this is technically day 2 because I never actually dug on day 1, but today's cleanup, I'm really curious about. If it's 1 gram, hey, a gram is still better than nothing for 2.5 hours digging. That's amazing. But like if we start pushing up above that, I need to totally reassess a lot of the places that I've just walked right over in the past because they weren't, you know, 300, 400 colors per pan, because like how coarse that gold is hard to read. So I've lowered the flow of the box and given it less of a slope. And so what that's going to do is you're going to be able to see more visible gold up on the surface because it's not going to bury that gold as deep and use as much of the depth of the mat. However, I'm interested to see if that holds gold better overall. For that ultra fine gold, you want as, you know, relaxed of settings as is possible. I don't think that's going to show up on camera. But yeah, it's still like it's looking like it's not packing up with blonde sand. A few more of these rocks are showing up, staying in there, but we're definitely, it still looks like it's running good. So I'm going to maintain that slower flow rate and slightly shallower slope, and we'll see how that works out. Hey, my latest strategy. So I've got all of this sand here that I know is not gold containing. So that layer right there. I was just gonna leave it. I'm not gonna go right up into that pile because it gets thick. But when I'm standing right next to it, I just shovel it from here right over there. So I can shovel this like ridiculously quickly to get that surface layer out of the way. And then I only carry this little section here over to the high banker. Keep in mind, I've just totally changed the angle and flow rate that I'm running my moss at. So any information that I'm giving you, I'm not an expert at this. I'm just trying to figure this out myself. So use my experimentation to your advantage, but don't be like, well, I saw this guy, Kyle, on Utmost Outdoors. He's doing it this way. That's the right way, or that's the only way to do it. I definitely just want to take a moment to, you know, let that sink in. I'm just learning here, just like everybody else. A lot of the time, I really don't feel like I have any idea what I'm doing out here. Kind of sucks when you feel like that, but I think it's also good to stay humble and realize that I have so much to learn, and a lot of the time I just can't find gold. So I'm on stuff that allows me to dig it. We'll see if this was worth it at the clean out, but it's all just a big learning experience for me and everyone here watching. I hope that you just, you know, take what I say with a grain of salt. That's all. You can actually see a piece of gold sitting just about to leave the box. That could have been from before. Coming down here, ooh, that is, where's my finger? There it is. Gold sitting down here, right behind the expanded. Pretty clear to see gold there. I am running this box at a shallower angle and with less flow than I was before, and yet these are not emptying out. So I think that I've just learned something. When I tested my tailings before, I wasn't losing a bunch either. So you never know, this stuff might just be very forgiving. But let's shut her down, and this time it's for the clean out. We've gone all the way from the very tip there, across to what I'm standing on, and then down to just past the pan there. The total was a 2.5 hour run, and that was including a little bit of breakfast. You can see when I shut the box down, all this gold sort of escaped out the bottom there. There's some real good showing right here. So two things that are different from last time. One is I've changed the angle and flow rate of my box. Look at that. That's all full of gold. And two, I'm in coarser gold. So based on looking at this box, remember this is just the single level right now. And so it's sort of like if I had two levels like I did last time, it would basically be half as much in each level. So this is as if I did a 5 hour run looking at it with two levels. But this looks better to me. This, like the amount of gold I'm seeing right here, looks better than I had the other day. And partly it's coarser gold, but partly, and I'm kind of concerned, did I just blow everything out of my box that last time? I wasn't being as strict with testing tailings. I was like, well, hey, I've used this, it works, call her good. I might have lost a lot of gold, but I don't know that for sure until I see what's actually in here. I would expect this to be like a 2 gram clean out. But it looks better than the last 4 gram clean out. I'm really curious, so I'm gonna do a proper clean out. The hopper moss, clean all that out. Let's have a look at that, by the way. So I rinsed this out. So when I was doing this at the end, I kind of took this and just like blasted it up and down a few times to try to get everything from here down into the bottom. Even so, how does it show up on camera? There is gold over there. Mainly that side doesn't get blasted with, there's these little holes right here, and these holes don't shoot off to that side, but they do to this side. So those are what's cleaning out the box. But I mean, there will be something left in here for sure. I'll take this out and we'll splash it out in a pan, see what's left even after rinsing it out. Yeah, there's gold on the back of the mat here, just from when it was rolled up. So this is promising. I guess I could just do this straight into the gold pan, but I've got it going through the sieve here. classic 12 mesh screen. We don't want that to float away, do we? Oh yeah, no, there's gold all through the edges of this classifier even. Huh. I think I did better than I thought I would. So there's a definite lesson here in terms of what type of gold to shovel and what to walk away from. Because for 2.5 hours, this looks really good. Considering it's just that little top bit. Oh wow. I'm going to show you this in the initial panning. So, that's what I'm talking about. Like, that is a legitimate amount of gold in here. I'm going to pan this down a little bit better. I won't pan it all the way down, but see what she looks like. Well, that's about as far as I'm brave enough to actually pan this down. You may notice there's some gold showing here. Nice little line of it up there. I'm definitely seeing coarser gold than I was at the last spot, so that's promising, because it's like maybe it's just a different type of gold, not just pure Kyle losing everything. But yeah, that's from not very much material just in my hopper. I'm back at the spot where I dug 1,620 shovels. And this pan was from like right in the meat of my tailings channel, right where it would sort of be concentrating naturally. And you can definitely tell that there is some gold in here, but really not very much. And this was like a full pan too. So, not really sure what that tells me, but I don't think that my box's recovery was as horrible as I was worried it might be. It may be a situation where with miner's moss I need to do more often cleanups, but this is going to remain a mystery for now, but like a learning, and I will be paying close attention going forwards. For now, catch and release. We'll let that grow into more gold for next year. Clean up from day one. First spoon. Set her into the auto feeder. We'll get a couple in here. 2. Probably don't want to be spilling too much of this stuff. 3. Alright, looking at it already. Oh, she's loaded. That's promising. So it runs down the auto feeder. This is all kind of makeshift. I've got just like a random piece here because this distributes the flow right down the middle. And then I was getting a stream right down the middle of this mat. Dream Mat Micro Mat works very well as a stripper. I have the rough top conveyor belt here, and I'm just trying a scrap piece of the backed miner's moss. This I use as a catch only. I don't run what's in here over the miller table, just the top 2 mats. And I've test panned this a lot. I do put this in a bucket, and I will run a final run at the very end of the year for all of this stuff. So I'm just kind of tracking losses. It dumps into this little tub, and then I've got another tub inside there with a bunch of little holes drilled around the outside, a little tray there. So basically trying to keep all of the sand away from my pump so it doesn't recirculate all that sand around. This is a much smaller tub than I usually use. I'm just sort of testing this out today because I have a smaller amount to run. Coming back to our cleanup, and it is looking very fine, very nice. Don't think we're overfeeding anything at this point, so my flow rate is good. I could even turn it up a little bit, and without spilling it, I'm gonna load this thing up so I can set it and forget it. I mean, I'm probably just going to get all excited here and this will turn out to be half a gram, but it really feels like this is looking better. One big piece could easily be like 50 small pieces. I think I need to come up with a new way to decide where to dig, other than just counting. This is the very last of the gold, just working its way down. If we scroll down to the bottom here, you can see each individual speck just bloop, 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 bloop. What claims to be an 1100 gallon per hour pump is drawing 56 watts. So I'm just going to press that button to shut her off and shut her down. Here's what we're left with. And then right down the middle, here's where it sort of seems the velocity changes to where it's happy. In the rough top conveyor, we've definitely, you know, like this will not catch all your gold, but it's a good stripping mat because the amount of gold or the amount of total material in there is like nothing. But this does a better job of actually capturing all the gold. There's just a little bit more material to it. Looking at this, it looks like I might have been running a little quicker than I normally do, but I did let it run for quite a while on shutdown. And then of course, I can't see any gold anywhere in this. I'll just test pan this to confirm, but then I dump this into a bucket later. This little piece of moss was very heavy, just absolutely packed with black sand. I panned all of that out into just a tiny, tiny little bit remaining. And if we look in here, you've got, like, this is the top edge where everything should be. Definitely some gold, but like maybe 2 shovels worth. So that is not going to be shown in the final cleanup video, but it is such an absolute minute amount. It's just going to go into this bucket, and that's where my, basically the bottom mat of the cleanup sluice and my miller table overflow. So everything that is contained in these mats here, I strip all the good gold out of that, and then what's left, including what was in here, goes into that bucket, and it just slowly adds up a tiny little bit of material that I can run at the end of the year for a bit of a bonus. Just work it on down, and we should be able to see a nice little line of gold building up here. Oh yeah. Just painting the box. Very nice. Confident here that I have over a gram, which is pretty sweet. Do I have 2 grams? Oh boy. Just look at that color. It's heavy. It doesn't want to move. Wow. Just enjoy that view. Okay. I'll give that a final rinse off camera, but the important thing is that this gold pan down here is not overflowing, because especially using just untreated hose water without the jet dry in it, that gold will work its way up and out of this pan. So I have to very gently pour off some of this water, and then I will reflush the cleanup sluice. Get this ready for miller table time. So let's put the very first scoop on the miller table. Now that is already showing gold. There's not a lot here though, because the cleanup sluice really concentrated it quite well. Throw her on the table. I'm actually experimenting today with going back to only a 20 mesh screen. So if we come on into this area, you can see some of those larger garnets. They would not be here with a 30 mesh. But the cool thing about a miller table is anything sort of larger and rounder like that just rolls right off the table once you get her moving. I was thinking, okay, I have at least a gram, hoping for 2, but my guess was for 1.5, and then I saw that we had a little extra concentrates. So, I mean, you have to guess. It is part of the whole game is guessing. So there it is. 2 grams is my guess. So here we go. 0 grams. .2. I'm going to try to stop at exactly a gram, and you can see what a 1 gram pile looks like. Nine 5, 9 7, 9 8, 9 9. Okay, so that is 1 gram. So if I sweep all of this up in here to a pile, that's looking awfully close to exactly the same amount again. But that's sort of the size of a 1 gram, my finger for reference. Let's see how she turns out. Do we make the 1.5? Yes, we do. It's going to be tight. 1.85, 1.86. Every little bit counts here. It's just dust, but we might get a 0.01. Hey, we did! Okay, so 1.87 grams. That's not incredible in terms of paying the bills. But remember, that was just about a 2.5-hour run, and it ended up being a lot better than I was expecting. I think the scale's just wandering there. We'll say 1.87. That's our number. Nice little pile. I'll put that into a vial, I'll label it, and I'll know, where it came from for next year. You never know, the floods move around differently. There might be some extra streaks there. The biggest learning experience for me was that coarser gold really does actually add up to more. You won't see till next week, but the rest of this trip I found another spot with really fine gold, and just counting the numbers, should have done better, but it's looking, without having weighed it yet, like it actually wasn't as good again. So that coarse gold, those coarse flakes really add up to a lot. And I'm saying coarse, it's not coarse gold. This is like flat, flaky flour gold. Everything goes through a 30 mesh screen easily, and a lot of it's just this powder that's like, I don't know what that mesh is. Always a good experience to kind of test a spot and actually come home and see, okay, well, what was at that spot as a learning experience, because in the past I've just counted colors, and I think going forwards I really need to like sweep it all into a pile with my finger and just get an idea of like how much actual gold looks like it's there, rather than just relying on a color count. I did find some better spots potentially to go back to, but it's challenging prospecting, and unless we get another flood late in the year, we'll see how we did next week for the next video. I will be back to that area at some point to recheck it out, but coming up, I also want to do some things in British Columbia gold related, and of course you may get a smattering of completely unrelated videos to either jet boating or gold mining, but you guys tolerate me very well, and I'll definitely make sure that the thumbnail lets you know what to expect, so you can just skip the videos you're not interested in, instead of having to unsubscribe to my horrible channel. As always, I read every single comment. I reply to the ones I can, so if you have a question about something in this video, comments apparently help the algorithm. Been watching some videos on how to do better at YouTube, and I guess gone are the days of just making a decent video people like to watch. It's all about pleasing that algorithm. So a thumbs up is much appreciated. A comment is always appreciated. And at the end of the day, really, I just hope you guys enjoyed the video. And we'll be back next week to see how the rest of the trip went. Until then, cheers and thanks for watching.